everyone! So I am making this video today as per the request of somebody who I recently met on YouTube, or shall I say they recently messaged me. I will put a link to their channel in the doobly-doo, and I highly suggest that you go and check it out. They have a couple of videos up and they're really awesome, so you should go and look at that. This video today is going to be about coping strategies for dyslexia. I am not the king of coping with dyslexia, but I got diagnosed when I was 12, and I mean I've had it all my life, clearly, and I've come up with a lot of my own coping strategies because, I mean, it's a big issue when you move through your life without being able to read. So just letting you know, from here on out, this video is not necessarily to tell you what life with dyslexia is like, which I plan on making a video about that soon, but not yet. So if you don't have dyslexia, you might want to stop watching. You can feel free to learn about the coping strategies of someone with dyslexia, but I don't know, might not be very interesting if you don't have dyslexia, so your choice. As always though, it's not much change. And I have a list. This is my list of coping strategies. So, I decided to do past, present, and future coping strategies, so here we go. In the past, my coping strategies looked something like this. I can't read this piece of paper. Could you read this for me? Ah! Oh, I have a bug in my eye! Ow! Oh! Ooh, that's bad! Oh my gosh, I'm blinded! But my dear, we're in a hospital. There aren't any bugs in here. Oh my gosh, I need to go to the bathroom so badly. So basically lying and avoiding. I would just avoid any questions about it. I would lie to get out of it, and I relied on my family for everything. But as far as like good coping strategies, I owned my own audiobooks. I found audiobooks when I was 6 I think. And I started buying them at that point because my family, my extended family, gave me gift cards to Borders, which is a bookstore, and I didn't know what to do with them, so I bought audiobooks. Now for present coping strategies. Being straightforward is number one on my list because I find that honesty goes a long way. Explaining my situation. If I just explain to people that I have a learning disability, I've found that they're a lot more open than I would normally think. And third on my list is putting pressure on other people to understand rather than putting pressure on myself to explain it. So I can just say, I have dyslexia and I don't read very well. And that puts the other person in the position of trying to figure out what to do next, rather than putting me in the position of trying to figure out a satisfactory lie. So there you go. I was never really a big fan of lying, but sometimes I felt like I had to just to get out of a certain situation, which I found isn't really a very good way to do things. Because then people just ask awkward questions. It's not very good. As far as when the situation doesn't involve other people questioning me, because I really don't read very well, and I'll get to that in a moment, I use fonts and colors and locations of words to figure out what they mean. So it's like when you're walking through Chinatown and you see all the different colors and all the different fonts and you can't read a word of it, but you kind of know what it's saying just by the way the shop looks or by the kind of font they use, and you can say, okay, yeah, okay, that's a restaurant because I can look in and I can see chairs and I can see tables, and that looks like a more sleazy establishment because of the graphic they used or whatever. So you can sort of make judgments, and they're not always right. I mean, no judgment's gonna be always right, but you can try to make judgments. If it's in red, if the letters are in red, don't touch it. So those are things that I've learned through experience, is like setting off an alarm in a Best Buy, which is a big electronics store, and having crazy things happen like that. So, you know, using colors and fonts and things, it's my best friend. Colors and fonts are my best friend. Like, unlike this list, which is all black and white, so, you know, I wouldn't be able to, like, divine anything from this. And also using what other people do to sort of determine what I'm supposed to do is another good one. Like, if other people don't touch it, I don't touch it. I don't know why, I don't know what's supposed to be happening, but I just won't touch it. Number 6 is sort of a try. I try to never be afraid to ask for help, to ask people what does this say, and sometimes they look at me like they're crazy, or sometimes they look at me like, okay, you know, whatever, maybe she has a hard time seeing. Oh, and also reading as much as I can without looking conspicuous. I'm not a very fast reader, so if I stare at something for a long time, particularly lately, I've been really curious about what people's shirts and things say, but unfortunately words are usually plastered across people's chests, and staring at people's chests for a long time doesn't get you the results that you want, even if you were legitimately reading their t-shirt. So I try my hardest to read as much as I can without staring or getting so distracted that I end up walking into the middle of the street or some such thing. If for whatever reason I feel like I can't tell the truth about my dyslexia, I have claimed that I am hard of seeing. It's not unusual for people to say, oh wow, I really can't read this. What does this say? People just sort of take it for granted that, okay, you're hard of seeing, that's fine, whatever. And also memorizing everything I can. I memorize words by sight when I can, and I also, if somebody reads something to me, I try to remember as hard as I can. I also go to tutoring for my dyslexia 3 times a week. 3 times a week for 1 hour, I sit in a room with this woman who's really nice, and I like her a lot, and it's the Susan Barton reading and spelling system. I do have a more recent certificate of completion than these ones, but these are my certificates of completion from past books I've done. It's like kind of like grades almost, and I like the program a lot, and I really do think that it is helping me to learn how to read, which for me, let's just say that's kind of saying something because I've been through a lot of programs at home, but this is my first experience with tutoring and I quite like it. Voice recognition software and Confident Reader to write online. I have voice recognition software to read things to me online. I have Confident Reader. I cannot give you one more tip that is better than this one. This is, I mean, these things have like saved my life. I love my softwares and my programs, and they're just, I can't speak highly enough of them. They are amazing. And with those programs, it allows me to do creative writing, which is so fun. I love writing, and it's ironic for someone who has dyslexia to love writing so much, but I hate like handwriting, but writing with my software is amazing. It's like I used to have all these thoughts all bundled up inside my head, just like chasing each other around, and with my software now I have a way to let them out, which is the best feeling ever, I promise you. Also, I think for me it's really important for me to have creative outlets that don't involve reading, so I spin and I weave and I knit and I crochet, but not a lot, and I do a lot of, I draw but not very well, and I do beading, and I have a lot of other things that I do for creative outlets. Oh, I do pottery, things that don't involve reading but are still a really fun creative outlet for me. Also, I guess this is one that I'm doing as I go along this list. I'm just folding it down so I don't ever have to keep track of my tracking. This is what I've already covered. This is what I have yet to cover. Buying audiobooks on iTunes, particularly on iTunes, because audiobooks are so expensive, and I cannot afford to have the books that I love, which sucks, but it's true. And I've just had to kind of get used to the fact that I can't afford to have books. Other people can go to libraries. My library doesn't always have them, and a lot of times books that I want to read haven't even been recorded yet. But if they have been recorded, you can find them pretty inexpensive on iTunes, if you have an iPod, of course. Interlibrary loan is also really fun. My sister does it all for me. I'm really blessed to have a family that is insanely, like, awesome about dyslexia stuff. So interlibrary loan is where you go to your library and you say, hey, get this book for me, and they're like, okay, and then you get it in the mail at that post office, and then you have at that library, and then you have to go to that library and pick it up. Also, there's something called the Library for the Blind and Physically Handicapped, and if you have an official dyslexia diagnosis, you can go to that library with your official dyslexia diagnosis, and you can say, I have dyslexia, can I be in your program? And for me, they said I could, so I get audiobooks from them whenever I want to. There's a big tape player. I'd show it to you, but a friend of mine who also has dyslexia has it right now, so I can't show it to you. But, oh, actually, they upgraded. I could show you the new one, but it's downstairs. Never mind. It's just like a little tape player anyway. And volunteers read those books, so I can't always promise that they're gonna be very good. They're not always professionally narrated, which is interesting, but I try not to put myself in situations that I'm not comfortable with, which is a really big one for me. If I think I can't do it, I just don't do it. And talking to other people with dyslexia is really helpful for me because it helps to remind me that I'm not the only one who goes through these struggles, and I'm not the only one who has these issues, and although it can be really hard sometimes, I don't have to go through all this alone, and it's nice to be able to commiserate / discuss dyslexia stuff with other people who really understand what it's like to walk this path. You know, everyone's path is different, but for people with really severe dyslexia, I think a lot of things are really shared about that, so it's really nice to talk to people who, you know, understand that. This bullet point reads, trying not to get discouraged when I fail, which I do. This is true. I try not to get discouraged when I fail at reading things or make mistakes in public, or, you know, just try not to get discouraged is a big one because it's very easy to get discouraged. As everyone knows, it's just sort of a general life thing. And then there's also surrounding myself with people that understand dyslexia to the best of my ability. As I said, I'm really blessed to have an awesome family. My extended family, I don't know that they really understand on one half, and on the other half of my family, my mother's side, they're all awesome. So, I mean, surrounding myself with friends that understand, and really just like, that's really helpful for me. And also being a self-advocate, like, for example, if somebody says something that is sort of derogatory towards people who can't read or people with dyslexia, depending on the situation. I mean, there are some times when I know people didn't mean it that way, and I'm just like, okay, fine, whatever. But as a whole, I try to sort of say, well, you know, not everyone can read, don't take that for granted kind of thing. If people make comments about how stupid people who can't read are, which is very common to hear, it's really common. So we've done past and present and now future coping tips that I hope I'll be able to use. And this has 1 point, a combination of all of the above with hopefully reading fluently enough to get by. So I hope that, I just dropped my list on the floor. I hope that this helped anybody and anybody out, anybody and anybody? I hope that this helps someone and anyone out there with dyslexia. And if you don't have dyslexia and you watched all this, wow, congratulations, that's crazy. So this is the longest video I've ever made. This is crazy! And I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments if you learned anything maybe about what it would be like for someone with dyslexia, if you don't have dyslexia, and if you do have dyslexia, leave me a comment if you can. I know writing is like hell if you don't have software and things, so goodbye. Goodbye, guys. Goodbye.